So, when you think about the history of time, what pops into your head? My guess it's a story about precision, right? Humanity's relentless quest to chop seconds into nanoseconds. But what if I told you that's only half the story? What if all around us there are these other clocks? Clocks we've just forgotten how to read. Let's get into it. We all know the official timeline. It's this nice, neat, linear march of progress. We start with the simple shadow of a sundial. Then we get the gears of mechanical clocks. Then, boom, the pendulum clock, making things way more regular. After that, the marine chronometer, which was supposed to tame time out on the open ocean. And finally, the atomic clock, giving us a pulse so incredibly steady it runs our entire digital world. It's a story of machines just getting better and better, more accurate, and honestly, more detached from everything else. But here's the question. What if this obsession, this drive for one single perfect mechanical heartbeat, actually made us blind to other ways of knowing time? What if the real story is, well, messier, way more interesting, and it's written not in gears and circuits, but in the world all around us? To really get our heads around this, we need a new idea, a term for these clocks we don't usually see. And that term is organic time. It's this way of thinking that, used to be totally second nature, but it's kind of been pushed aside by the constant ticking of the clock. Okay, so what is organic timekeeping? Simply put, it's the practice of reading the world itself as a giant timekeeper. So instead of glancing at your watch, you're looking at the patterns in the environment. And here's the really crucial part. In this system, place and time are completely, totally inseparable. To know when you are, you have to know where you are, and you have to be able to read the clues that place is giving you. And what's so cool about this quote is how it makes this big idea feel so, well, intuitive. Think about it. We still do this, right? The sound of a certain bird in the morning, the rumble in your stomach that says, hey, it's almost lunchtime, the way the light slants across your room in the late afternoon. These are all little pieces of organic time that we weave into our lives without even thinking about it. And this wasn't just some poetic, philosophical thing. For a huge chunk of the 19th century, this was a very practical, high-stakes science. So let's see how this actually played out in two really different places, the vast open ocean and a busy industrial river. Out at sea, the big dream was the marine chronometer. The idea was to have this perfect portable clock that would always tell you the time back in London or Paris, so you could figure out your longitude. But the reality? These things were super delicate, crazy expensive, and the constant motion of a ship could throw them off in a heartbeat. The sailor's most trusted tool wasn't one single machine. It was a whole data-gathering system, the ship's logbook. And the kind of data they were logging was just wild. Sailors would drop this lead line, a process they called sounding the deep, and pull up samples from the bottom of the ocean. And by describing the texture, the feel, the contents with this really vivid, standardized language, like marshy shells, like oatmeal husks, they were doing something amazing. They were turning the invisible, chaotic seafloor into a legible map of time and space. Each unique texture was a point on the map, cross-referenced with the time of day and the ship's speed. So the logbook was this incredible universe of information. It combined the abstract time of calendars with the grueling 24/7 work schedule of the crew. It wove together wind speed, ocean currents, sightings of birds, and these super complex astronomical calculations. It was a timekeeper that held all these different, sometimes conflicting rhythms together in one document, creating this rich, layered picture of the ship's journey through space-time. Okay, now let's trade the ocean for the river. Back in the 19th century, the real heart of American industry wasn't the steam engine yet. It was the water-powered textile mill. And inside these huge, noisy factories, the most important clock wasn't the one on the bell tower. Nope. It was the river flowing right outside. Workers, like Lucy Larcom, they literally felt the river's time in their bodies. When the river flooded, the water wheels would slow down, and that change in energy would just ripple through the entire factory. Larcom's description is amazing. You can just picture it. The thread ran slack, lazily the shuttle crossed the web. The factory wasn't forcing its rhythm on nature. Its rhythm was nature. And this is where it all clicks. The actual quality of the cotton thread they were producing was a direct record of the river's flow. A thick, uneven thread told the story of a flooding river. A fine, strong thread spoke of a steady, perfect flow. The product itself, the cotton, became a kind of ticker tape, a physical, continuous register of environmental change. So, if this system of organic timekeeping was so incredibly sophisticated on ships and in factories, what happened to it? why don't we do this anymore? Well, the answer lies in what happened when people tried to scale it up to the size of an entire nation. It led to a crisis with a very, very unexpected solution. You've probably heard this one before. The story goes that standard time was invented for the railroads. And it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? How can you possibly run a national train network when every single town has its own local time? It's a clean, simple story about industrial efficiency. But it's not actually true. The real urgent push for a single national time didn't come from railroad tycoons. It came from scientists and government bureaucrats who were trying to run these massive nationwide organic timekeeping projects. And they were failing spectacularly. Here was the problem. All through the mid-19th century, the government launched these huge surveys to collect environmental data. We're talking weather patterns, crop yields, coastal tides, the whole shebang. They had thousands of observers all over the country mailing in their readings. But when the scientists in Washington tried to put it all together, they hit a brick wall. An observer in Ohio would record rainfall at his local solar noon. Another one in Massachusetts was using the time from the Boston train station. A third guy down in Virginia was using the time from a local jeweler's clock. It was a mountain of data with no shared when. You can't make a national weather map if you don't know if the observations were even taken at the same time. The whole project was useless. And the railroads? Yeah, they were fine. As you can see from this quote from a railroad association back in 1873, they really didn't see an urgent need for a big change. They had their own little systems and were managing okay. The crisis wasn't on the rails. It was in the archives, in that mountain of useless data. And this brings us to the most crucial point, the big twist. Standard time wasn't invented to serve the machines of the industrial age. It was invented to solve a massive data problem created by the very practice of reading the environment. In this bizarre turn of events, the only way to make the organic clock of the entire nation readable was to force the abstract, mechanical time of a single standardized clock on top of it all. So this is a fascinating hidden history, for sure. But what does it actually mean for us today in a world that pretty much runs on schedules and notifications and deadlines? Why does this matter? Well, it matters because even though we live by the clock, the world itself hasn't stopped being a timekeeper. Those skills of the 19th century sailor or the mill worker, that ability to read patterns and listen to the language of the environment, they're not obsolete. They've just been quieted down a little. Henry David Thoreau once wrote that the landscape contains 1,000 dials. This whole story of organic time is a reminder that those dials, they're still there. The history of time isn't just a story of us escaping the natural world into this bubble of pure precision. It's also a story of our deep, continuing, and honestly necessary connection to it. So I guess the real question is, which dials are we choosing to read?